Genesis 15:1 is where I'm going to be speaking from. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward." This is what God said. You know, when God says this to one of his people, this is going out to all his people. This is ministering to us today. I mean, it ministered to me greatly this while I was preparing for the sermon. And it is good, and always good when we come together like this to have, I like to look at as one large sermon on a topic like we are doing right now. Because as a brother we're preaching, Brother Gene, Brother Jonathan, Brother Ricky today so far, these are all things I've been thinking about. As I'm thinking about God being God is our reward. As I was thinking about that, and today when we come together here at the table, I've had people ask me, why would you want to come and listen to preaching for a whole weekend? Some people wouldn't even understand why you want to do it for a whole day. But it's because they don't see it. They don't see God for who he is. Because when you see God see, people, these spend their time here. And Brother Ricky just got done saying, time is short. Time is short. And for the ungodly, that's not a good thing. But for those who love God and who want to be with him, that's a real good thing. We're thankful that our time is short. We're thankful that God has put a time limit on it. Who wants to be in a race that never ends? When you get in a race, you want to know, where's the finish line at? You know, it's devastating to say, well, we never did put up a finish line. Just keep on running that way. How many would start that race? I know I wouldn't even start the race. I'd just be like, well, I'm just going to take my shoes and go home. I'll save them for a race that has a finish line. So that's what we're doing this weekend. We're coming together. We're building each other's faith up. And we can see God more clearly. Because if you can see God more clearly, you can see that he is your reward. He is a reward. Now, when people do something, let's be honest about this. Let's be clear about this. They want something out of it. They want a reward. We want a reward too. We're not just fighting to be fighting. We're not just running to be running. We're not just suffering to be suffering. We want something out of it. We want our God. Yes. We want to be with our God. Amen. So, this is a good word. We have a good word that God says, do not be afraid. Now, first of all, this is a tender word from our God. Sometimes we can just feel overwhelmed by the struggle. It just seems like we just can't go no more. And then we get this word from God. Do not be afraid. God says this to us. Do not be afraid. I am your shield. I'm there for you. I'm your protection. You see them? They look giants. They look like giants. They look wicked. They look evil. They look overwhelming. But you don't look to them. You look to me. Because I'm your reward. I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to bring you all the way. And as we had ministered to us very well, when I was preparing this, there's different directions, and I always ask the Lord to help me not to get, especially when we come together with the brethren, I know these things are going to be touched on. Grace was one of them I was looking at, because we need grace to help us to get all the way. Yeah. We need faith. Brother Jonathan he preached on that too. And that was one of the things I was thinking about. If you're going to get this reward, you've got to have faith to see it. You got to have faith to see God. You got to have grace to do what is needed, because there's something you got to do. There's things that you got to do. And if you're going to try to do it on your own strength, you're not going to make it. So we need grace. So Brother Ricky preached on that. I knew that was going to happen. That's why I didn't start branching off in these different directions. I did touch on a few of these different things, but I didn't get off on them because I knew we were going to talk about it. But God being our exceeding great reward. Boy, if you could see that, that will minister to you in your toughest times. When you're going through the hard times, that will minister to you. Romans 12:3 says, "For I say, though the grace given unto me to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God had dealt to every man a measure of faith." You've got to be able to see God clearly. Amen. And faith will help you do that. The reward that we're going to look at cannot be had if you do not believe. Who here believes that God can do what he says? When he says he's going to do something, do you believe it? Well, you got to. It's only for those who believe. If you can't believe God, well, you're already in a bad place. Abraham trusted God. Remember, Sarah, she was past due. And God gave him this great word that he was going to give him. He was going to make him the father of many nations. It says, "Look to the heaven," this is what God said to him, "to the stars, if thou be able to number them." And he said to him, "So shall thy seed be." Abraham believed God. See, it's those who believe God. If you can believe God, well, the Lord is going to be there for you. So he believed him, and it was counted for him for righteousness. It was because he believed. Some may say that there is nothing that you could do. But see, this is not seeing everything. You got to see this the way God's working this out. He's given us grace. He's given us faith. He's given us everything. But there are things we have to do. We got to believe him. Yes. Now, I understand that God's given you that. But we are called to act on this. We can't just sit back and do nothing. Because you are going to do something. It's going to be falling back into the world. That's what's going to happen. When you believe God, it's not because you're looking at something else, but it's because you're looking to God. When you look to God, you can believe in God. But when you have your eyes focused, and I don't have to be up here to point these things out to you. Each one of us, we all go through day by day with distractions that's going to try to pull us away. Because Satan knows he has nothing to offer you. So what he wants to do is get your eyes off the Lord. If he can get your eyes away from God, who is very pleasing, now then he's got someone he can work with. But if you're looking at this reward, and this means more to you than anything else, this exceeding great reward, if you can see it for what it is, well then, whatever Satan has to offer you, it's meaningless. Yes, right. But it is dangerous. Yes. I don't mean to minimize it by saying, if you look to God, it'll take care of it. This is true. But it is still dangerous. Because it's dangerous because Satan is very crafty. He's very good at what he does. He's very good